Hello and welcome back to UI Chat from The Interface, the podcast focused on the latest news from Ubiquiti and anything network related. I'm Alex, and once again I'm joined by my co-host Evan McCann. Howdy, Evan.
Hey, good to be back and good to have another guest here with us today.
Yeah. This time we have Clay Archer from DPC Technology. Hi Clay, how are you doing?
Doing great. Glad to be here. Thanks for the invite.
Thank you so much for joining us. We're going to have a little conversation with Clay before we get into the meat of the episode. So, in your own words, do you want to explain who you are and what you do?
Yeah, I'm Clay Archer. I am the owner of DPC Technology. We are a managed service provider, meaning we do IT work for businesses in Northeast Florida. We actually have offices in Columbia, South Carolina, Atlanta, Destin, Florida, and Orlando, Florida. And we have people in Savannah. Our main office here in Jacksonville. When you see me doing my crazy videos around the office, that's here in Jacksonville. Been doing it now. This is our 30th year in 2025. Yeah, I graduated college in 1995 and decided not to get a real job and start fixing people's computers. Did that for a long, long time, and slowly but surely I became more of the business guy than the computer guy. And so, as we grew bigger and got past maybe 10 or 15 people, I started to do less and less technical work.
Yep.
And part of me doing the UniFi stuff and home lab stuff and the stuff I do was me kind of missing that. We have 40 or something employees now, and I do spend the bulk of my time running a business. But I really do like tech, and I miss getting in there and actually turning wrenches. There's this kind of inflection point where you get to a certain size where it no longer makes sense for you to actually be working in the business. You just got to start working on the business. And so part of my tinkering and YouTube stuff was I was into photography. I kind of had the video gear, and we do quite a bit of UniFi stuff. We go back to the AirCam days, like a long, long time ago. And so slowly but surely, I started doing those videos, and they started to do decently. And so I started doing more and more of them, and now I do tons of them. And I'm part of the creator program and yada, yada.
Yeah, I must say, from some of the videos I watched ages ago from when I first found your channel, the quality of your videos is really, really good. Like, you can definitely tell you must have a DSLR for your face cam and stuff.
Yeah, that's the A7S3 on my webcam. Yeah, so I was already in that world from photography. So I had a 5D Mark II Canon, which was like that first cool DSLR camera, and I was like, I should be shooting some video. And I did some pretty poorly done videos, but the camera quality for its time was pretty good. I still cringe whenever I see them, but yeah.
And then, sort of, how long have you guys been using Ubiquiti? Do you use it for clients, I'm guessing, as well?
Yeah, so we started to do air cams way back when. Most of our clients are dentists and doctors. And so people would want to know what, have these big offices. They would want to know what's going on in different parts of the office when they're sitting there in their office. Somebody sitting at the front desk waiting to check in. So it made sense for them to have some cameras around, front, back. And we did, back in the AirCam days, that was like Ubiquiti's first stuff. They were horrible cameras, but they were better than what was out there. And so we started putting some of those in. I think we moved to this office in 2013 or 14, and we put a bunch of cameras in here, and then I started playing with it on a daily basis. And then, you just start, it's like anything with Ubiquiti, you just start to go, oh, well, there's a new one that's better, and I started to do that. And then I started to just I kind of had one of everything, so I was like, well, let me just do a big comparison of these things. We use them for their switches. We use them there for their WAPs. And I'm really excited. One of the things that they are focusing on, and I'm kind of looking at in my world, is this enterprise level stuff that they're getting into, because they've always been kind of a peripheral. They make really nice switches. They make nice cameras. They make stuff that we can put up kind of the edge of their network. But now they're kind of focusing it on the heart of the network, which really is going to be the router, right? Like, so for us, having some redundancy in there, having some enterprise grade stuff, we're really interested in that. In the MSP space, almost nobody really, at a certain level, nobody really uses UniFi for that stuff. But we're all kind of licking our chops because their model of no fees, and it works well for a lot of people. And so if they can get
Definitely.
all the little bugs ironed out, I think there's a lot of potential for UniFi in that space.
Yeah,
So
100.
what are you using now for your routers and gateways?
Yeah, so we've done one of the reasons that we have all those offices all over the place is we've done some mergers and acquisitions, and so we have pretty much we're torn between Sophos and um, SonicWall, and we're not really married to either of them. We don't really. I mean, almost all of them are kind of the devil, versus like we're super happy with this. SonicWall's global management's really poor. Sophos, we have so many of the SonicWalls out there to go roll it all out there, and we're not over the moon with Sophos. Although Sophos is if I had to pick between the two products, I would say that Sophos is probably the more user-friendly product. For me, ultimately, what's great about UniFi, and what's cool about it for us, what's expensive is labor. And so if I can have somebody playing with a Gateway Ultra at home, and it's $129 or $199 little Ubiquiti device, and they come to work and it's the same interface, all my employees are nerds. They're jumping in there and they're learning every corner of it, but they're not at home learning a Sophos, and they're not at home learning a SonicWall, just because it's just not part of their ecosystem there. So that's what really intrigues me the most about it, is that everybody in my office knows how to run UniFi pretty well, there's not this huge barrier to entry. When we bring somebody on and we have to teach them SonicWall, you have to send them out there and have them learn all that, and it's a big hill to climb.
Yeah, that's how they get you. Once you have their cameras, you want
Correct.
to add more. Once you have
Yep.
those switches, you're like, oh, let's add access points, and
And I'm the
wait,
worst.
why aren't we doing routing in here? Let's do that too. So
I'm the worst. I'm the worst.
it's a sticky ecosystem for sure.
Yeah. And then just lastly, because I've been doing stuff on YouTube for a little while, and I've learned so much in that short span of doing stuff. What's been the biggest thing you've learned in making videos on YouTube, do you think?
About YouTube or about UniFi?
But about YouTube itself, like making videos and making something successful and
Yeah,
editing or something.
consistency. I'm lucky. I've got more people here. It's hard to do it as a one-man show because
Oh yeah.
the editing and all that stuff. So I have a Michael who edits for me. You see Sean, who's our project manager in a lot of our videos.
Hmm.
Daniel, right now we're doing that AI turret and the AI dome video, which those videos are really, because I do them inside and outside at night. So I got to stay up at night,
Yep.
got to move them from in and out. Fortunately, this time I've got two of each, so I can kind of do them together. But putting those on a rig, getting it all working, and then you're learning it while you're shooting it. So,
Hmm.
this afternoon I couldn't get a micro SD card to work in it, and I was like
Ah.
bashing my head in, and I was like,
Yeah.
oh, I just format it, I put it in, and it just works. But it just takes an exorbitant amount of time. I'm fortunate that I've got employees that also like to tinker and will play with me and do these things. Um, but yeah, so to try and do it all on your own, certainly once you get to a point where you're making some revenue at it, I think the investment in having some third parties do some of that stuff for you is definitely big, for sure.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I can definitely attest to that. It takes a long time to make a video.
It does.
Yeah, definitely. Fantastic. We're going to dive into some of the headlining news now. The first one is obviously the news of this month has been the UniFi Protect stuff we've seen. Obviously, you've just alluded to the AI turret, which we'll get to in a bit. But one of those was the YouTube video that Ubiquiti released. They released a quite fast-paced as usual YouTube video discussing all the new stuff. So we had all the new cameras, which we'll get to in a bit. We also had UniFi Protect 5.1, which brought a bunch of stuff. But it's really interesting to see. And they also said that the G4 Doorbell Pro, I think that was in this video, that has the fingerprint reader, which is insane. Because that came with the product when it was announced. They sort of said that it's going to have NFC and stuff like that, which is really, really good. Yeah, I was quite impressed with that video, really.
AI port as well.
Yes. Yeah.
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 Some of those I'm not so sure of the price point on that AI port, but
Yeah.
if you've got, let's just say you have a $2,000 Axis camera out there and you want to make it smart, I think there's a use case where some people are going to jump at that and go, oh, that's not that expensive. It's funny, the UniFi ecosystem, and when I make the videos and I hear the comments, they really come from two different angles. There's from the home user that thinks $200 for an AI port is cheap, and then you got a professional installer that goes, I don't have to run I don't have to hang a new camera there. I don't have to, and they think $200 is super cheap, right? And so there's very few people right in the middle that go, oh, this is Goldilocks.
Yep.
But I think that's an interesting product
Oh yeah.
for sure.
Yeah, and that is, it's $200. It's coming out December 4th, and the idea is you can use any non-smart Ubiquiti camera or any third-party OnVIF or ONVIF. Clay, by the way, do you say OnVIF or?
I say it that way. Whether it's right or wrong, that's what I say.
Okay.
Yeah.
We like to ask everyone how they pronounce that word. But yeah, so you can use a third-party camera, feed PoE in, it'll feed PoE out, and it'll do that the AI stuff in UniFi Protect for you. $200. So yeah, if the camera's $2,000, that's a pretty small investment, especially if you consider labor, the cabling out, all that. It's kind of a small part of that.
Yeah, you're not going to get a professional to come out and change out the camera for less than $200. So if you could just walk back in the server closet and pop one cable out and pop another Cat5 cable in, Cat6 cable, Cat7 cable, whatever it is today, obviously that's going to be super cheap compared. But if you're at home and you got to get 6 of them, you're not going to spend $1,200 to get your real links to be smart.
No.
Somebody might, not me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the other things there, and it's a pretty interesting because I get it all the time, is some of these cameras with the AI detections are expensive, comparatively speaking. But I don't necessarily think that everybody needs to have all smart cameras, right? Like even I'm doing this review today, spoiler alert, that Turret Ultra it's a bang on camera for cheap. And you put it next to the AI turret and you're like, yeah, the AI turret's nicer for sure. But do you really need it? I'm going to put 10 of these around my building? Probably not. If I needed 10 cameras, I'd probably put the AI turret at the front door and at the back door and put the Turret Ultras everywhere else where I just need, basic detections.
Well, yeah, that's why they got. I guess that's why they have cameras at different price points. You just got different things that meet different needs, really. So yeah, 100%.
Yeah, that's another thing that UniFi's done pretty well is they give us options. I know that annoys people sometimes because there's like, what's the name now? Is it Max or is it Ultra? Is it whatever? But more options is usually better than fewer options.
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned those Axis cameras as well. I was researching those cameras ages ago, before Protect was any good, and they are impressive cameras. They're very expensive, but they are really, really, really good. Some of them have really far zoom as well. So
a friend of mine, I live in a beach condo. I live in a high rise, and a friend of mine he said, "Hey Clay," he's a surfer, and he wanted a surf cam, and he put one on my balcony. It was a couple $1,000 camera, and it sat there for a decade. And I don't know if you know the environment in a beach condo, but it is as nasty and mean and horrible on anything electronic as possible. And that camera just sat there and did its thing. The only reason we took it down is because they did a remodel on the outside of our building, or it would still be sitting there today.
Wow. Yeah. The next thing I want to get into is me and Evan discussed UWC Miami as best as we could last month because neither of us went, and all three of us on this episode we haven't been either. There was some stuff on Reddit that leaked, so some people were a bit naughty and they took some pictures while they were there, which is a bit frowned upon. And they put some stuff on Reddit, and we have got a glimpse into what is coming soon. But this isn't usually what we talk about. So when Ubiquiti had the event early in the year, I went, and out of sort of, I guess, respect, we didn't talk about it because they asked you not to. But because we didn't go, I think we can talk about it. So the first one was this. I'll put a picture on screen for those who are watching. But it's called the AI Key. And there's a lot of information about this device, and it looks kind of similar to the AI port that was announced a few days ago, but it's kind of a bit more advanced than that. So this is a little rack mount device. Oh, it can be rack mountable with an accessory, but it's similar in size to the Cloud Key Gen 2 Plus. But it looks like it gives a level of performance and detection capabilities to those older cameras, and also third-party OnVIF cameras too. So you can power it via PoE++. It says it can sharpen face recognition images for enhanced identification. But it also enables face and license plate recognition on G4, G5, and third-party cameras. And even it can transcribe speech events and even give you a detailed description on those events using the next AI system. So, yeah, a little supplemental device to UNVR, but it seems pretty impressive just on the back of those few bullet points that I've managed to find off the image. So, yeah.
Yeah, it sounds impressive. I've not heard anything about it
No.
in any channel. I know nothing other than what you just said there.
Yeah.
I think that would be a hot commodity for sure.
Yeah.
Price again is probably going to be the kicker there, but how many devices you can control.
Oh,
If
yeah,
an
that's
AI
another one.
port's, let's just say you could do 3 cameras and AI port's $200 a piece. If it's less than $600, you're probably better off there than. And I have no intel on it at all.
Sure.
So.
Yeah, same. I mean, it seems like there's some overlap between the AI key and the AI port. I mean, obviously the AI port is for a single camera. This presumably would do multiple, but yeah, we don't know those details. And yeah, I would be curious about the same thing. Are there features on this? Like the transcribing speech. I don't think they mentioned that for the AI port.
No.
So it seems like it's doing more than the port, and it'll do it for multiple cameras. So this is probably the one to get if you have more than one camera. But yeah, price would be the big thing. So I'm excited to see what that costs when it comes out.
Yeah.
I'm super interested on the transcribing speech there too. It jumps out to me because I get varying quality, especially outside on the cameras and their microphones or their arrays. I would be very interested to see how that works.
I'd imagine if it could see a doorway and a road, it could say, I don't know, if you had face detection in for certain person, it could say Evan walked from doorway right to like somewhere. I think it could be might be quite basic like that. I'm not really sure though. That's what I'd imagine it would do.
They're starting to bring some of that intelligence into that report alert manager. I don't know if you guys jumped into that too much in that 5.1 release, but
not yet. No.
It's and there's some ways to go on it. I have some opinions that I think they should go a little bit better with some motion detections, like to be able to do sub motion detections of like this is there and this is that. But there is a lot of that kind of if then logic that's going on there in that alerts manager. So I do feel like they are developing in that direction towards being able to have it be smart based on what you want it to be based off of, if then kind of stuff, which I do think I get it all the time. People will say, hey, I want to get an alert if somebody walks into this room, but only in this corner, but not between the hours of 4 and 5 and all that kind of stuff where the new alert manager does a lot of it, but it's missing the last little bit of nuance. And I think AI on top of that would just be killer.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm curious how this ties in with like access and their other applications, because I believe, I could be wrong, but I think that there's a way to tie facial recognition to like unlocking a door.
Yes.
So like I wonder, they mentioned enable face and license plate recognition on the G4 and G5, and it sharpens facial recognition. So I wonder if like this will be required for something in the future, or how that all ties in.
Makes sense. I think you can, and I haven't tested it out. I've got a gate access system that I want to put in, but the deal didn't go through. But I believe you could do it with LPR already on the gate access system. So you kind of writing's on the wall there.
Sounds cool. There's 3 devices. Is there 3 devices? Yeah, there was 3 things leaked from UWC on Reddit. So the second one is UniFi UPS. The picture I put in the blog post is very blurry. So I think someone took it on a potato, but there's a bit of information on here. So there's 2 models. One is the UPS and one is the UPS tower. The UPS has more battery capacity, and these look very similar to other UPS models on the market. So you've got Ethernet sockets for network connectivity. You've got sort of mains power outlets as well, and certain outlets are on battery and certain outlets are surged. There's this thing here that says 2/10 full/half. I guess I'm not entirely sure what that means.
Runtime would be my assumption. It'll run for 2 minutes at full power output.
Okay.
So it looks like these have pretty small batteries. The rack mount is a 1500 VA, the tower is 1000 VA, but like your cheaper Cyber Powers or Insert
Yep.
APC, some of those lower end typical UPSs you'll see in a network closet, those have pretty small internal batteries. They're not really meant for long time. It's more to shut down safely or protect from a short power interruption.
Okay. Yeah, because it says 216 watt hours, which is like 0.2 of a kilowatt hour, so it's not massive, but it should just keep things ticking over nicely in case you got a surge or something. So it's interesting. So
yeah, and these are not to be confused with the existing USP RPS, the redundant power system, which has those custom proprietary DC power input on certain devices. These are just standard AC outlets, but I would assume because they're managed, you're going to get like power consumption, remote reset capability. Like I would assume that that's going to be the play with these.
100%.
They're not overly exciting on the technical front as far as battery size and power, but it'll be a cheap and easily integrated managed UPS.
Yeah, because I've done some research into APC smart UPSs, and they get a bit complicated in terms of the model you choose, which ones has internet connectivity, which ones, how they alert you and stuff. This will just alert you on the UniFi. So yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the power of the whole UniFi system. Now, even down to the little smart power switch, just being able to reset your modem and that kind of stuff. It's very gracefully done. I like that as a concept. I haven't seen that either, but interesting concept.
Yeah,
and I think they would sell like hotcakes, obviously.
Yeah, because I've got a couple. I live on a farm, so I've got a couple places that have got strategic wireless links and stuff, and they've got APC UPSs at the moment, and they're okay. But yeah. And the very last one is I haven't written a blog post about this one just yet. This is the UniFi 5G. I have to find the pictures. But yeah, there's two devices for this one. One looks like an Amplify Alien. It's got a screen on the front, and one looks like a iPad mini style shape device, but it's got a tiny screen on it. And people have been very what do you call it? Very harsh on Ubiquiti for not adopting 5G as quickly as they should have done. So a lot of the devices they've got, like the UMRs, are all 4G. So this is quite good to see them getting into the 5G space. And I imagine these are like the UniFi LT. These will be UniFi 5G for failover and stuff.
Well, yeah, for failover, and I also wonder if it's going to be just like the LT backup, but just the 5G version of that, or is it going to be more like here in the US we have a couple major wireless providers like T-Mobile that'll sell in-home internet with a 5G backhaul rather than a cable. So I wonder if maybe this device is going to be for that, or the one that looks like an iPad is, or the one that looks like an Amplify Alien is.
I'll be honest, the Amplify Alien one looks to me, it reminded me of the T-Mobile home 5G thing.
Yeah, that's why I said that.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'd imagine that's probably more standalone device, and that's just your router you've got for your house. So
right. So I wonder if it's kind of like a Dream Machine or a whole UniFi console with a 5G card in it. Yeah. Which that'll be an interesting device if that is the case.
100%. Yeah. Definitely. We've got some hardware to get through now. I know Claire's already mentioned that he's got some of these new cameras on hand to test, which is cool. And some of these are actually on sale right now, which I was really surprised about. They were announced and were on sale the same day. And we're going to mention the AI turret, the LPR, and the dome. And all of those cameras have an SD card slot, which is something that Ubiquiti used to do with the G3 Bullet range. Those used to have SD card slots for, I think, standalone purposes. But these are for edge recording. So if your NVR goes offline or the network infrastructure to that camera goes offline, you at least have got some backup of someone stealing something, if that is what the case is. So
I confirm it works fine. It's good.
Yeah.
Wow.
And can you access how do you access the footage? You have to take the SD card out?
You go into the Protect, you unmount it, and there's a little area in Protect that shows you how much footage you have, how long your footage is going to be, and then you can format the card there too, or you can unmount it, and you just click on mount. You do have to. It's screwed in. These are both of those units are, and I don't have the LPR. I just have the ones that are for sale.
Yep.
Both of those units have much more tamper protection than the previous ones. And so you have to take off the dome cover, and then there's a little two screws into an access door that's got that reset button. And
Wow.
you just eject the card, you put it in your computer, it fires right up, and it's got a date for each one, and then each recording time frame is just got it's the time frame is the name of the file, and you can set that to just do detections, or you can do it to record continuously. And I had a 256 gig SD card on the Ultra, I mean the AI turret, and it got 8.5 days of recording. So, yeah,
Wow.
yeah, pretty good stuff.
That is incredible. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, the first one is the AI turret, and this is like a modification of the current. Is it called the Turret Ultra? I think.
Yeah, and it's not really
Yes.
a modification. It's it's
Oh, is
twice the
it?
size. It's a big metal beast. It looks like if you've seen a Hike Vision or a Daiwa or whatever,
Yeah,
it
yeah.
looks much like a traditional turret.
Oh wow, I didn't realize it was that big.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
And the takeaway for me is just still so blown away by what they're getting out of that tiny little turret.
Mm.
Um, at that price, I think that tiny little turret is just amazing. I am amazed by the AI turret too as well, but the kind of the thing that jumped out to me really quickly is what they're getting out of that little small form factor.
Yeah. Yes, this one's $4.99 in the US. It's on sale in other areas too. But it has the micro SD card slot, has the far field microphone array. Oh wow, an integrated LED spotlight as well for color night vision, much like I think the G5 Vision thing.
Yep, it's the AI Pro Vision Enhancer.
That's
Looks
the one.
very
Yeah,
similar to it. Yeah.
yeah. And then we've also got face and license plate recognition detection sort of stuff. And what's got me is the 131-foot IR night vision range as well. That's just really really good.
Yeah, it's impressive. It's impressive.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, and Clay mentioned it earlier. I mean, the AI turret, and we're about to cover the AI dome. They're very similar, just kind of different form factors. But those are $500 cameras, and they do have those bells and whistles that we mentioned, like the SD card, AI detections, the advanced AI detections. But they also make the Turret Ultra and the Dome Ultra look like really good values. And I know that's the point of all their Ultra products. Despite their name, they're like really value focused. But you get a lot of the same things for $129, and for a lot of people, I don't think they really need to spend 3 times as much per camera to get those few things.
yeah, I think you pepper those in where you really with your entrances and your exits. The big jump on the AI Dome versus the uh, Ultra Dome though is it's now IP66. It's outdoor, like it's a big bad boy, and it too is twice the size,
Wow.
and it's tamper resistant, and it definitely is. You see where the extra $250
Yeah.
is in the unit itself. Um, but and you clearly could put it outside. It's got a little sun visor, uh,
Mm.
that little cover on it. You can put a couple different. You can put a flush mount, or you can put that sun visor on it. Um, yeah, it's gonna be a popular one as well. But I think to me the big takeaway is that reemphasizes the value of that ultra line. They really really are amazing cameras.
Yeah, really really good price. And this also AI dome has got a microphone which the Dome Ultra doesn't have. So
Correct.
yeah.
The things that doesn't really make sense for me on the outside and the weather rating on that is the the Turret Ultra. They both basically have the same sensor.
Hmm.
Um, and this is just my eyeballs. I always think things look better out of a turret than they do out of a dome, just because optically there's just one less piece of
Yep.
glass in there. Oh, another interesting thing they did on the AI dome. If you've seen my videos, I'm very critical of the fogging issues they have.
Mm.
So they have the little packets you actually manually install yourself.
Huh.
You unwrap them from a wrapper and you put them inside of the dome. There's little moisture absorbent packets,
Oh yeah.
and before you install it out, which sounds a little weird, but for me in Florida, everything I put out there, I put a $2,500 the DSLR, AI DSLR, and it fogged on me for a week, and I just, but you can't help that. You put it
Mm.
together inside, and then you walk outside where it's 100% humidity in Florida and raining for 5 days, and it just does it. So their workaround for that on the dome is to put those in there. But um, where I was going with that is I think for outside, the array microphone and the color night vision and the turret form factor, I don't see a lot of people putting the domes outside at the same price, because I think you're giving up a couple features that are cool for outside, are really good for outside. The other thing about the AI turret is it's got the blue halo light like the pros do. So if you want to be conspicuous or inconspicuous, you turn it off. But if you want to be conspicuous with your security, I think the turret's the way to go.
Yeah.
I'm glad you brought up the condensation, because I was going to ask about that. Because I know that the AI models are IP66 previously, with the Turret Ultras IP65, the G5 Domes IPX4, and what, IK06 for, yeah. But yeah, so they're more weather resistant, but I love that the solution ended up being just, put some silica gel packets in there.
Exactly. It's kind of a silly, but you read the instruction, you're like, oh, okay, they go right there, all right, and
Where do
works.
they sit? Do they sit at the very?
They sit behind, in a dome camera where
Yeah.
you can rotate that camera around. They sit behind the camera inside
Right.
the dome.
I got you.
There's a little pocket behind them they go in.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
I'll be honest, that's put me off buying G5 domes and G4 domes in the past. Like, this
100%.
camera might work in its place, but then like all the issues you might have. So I'm glad they've sort of done something with that.
Well, yeah, sounds like domes are better indoors anyway.
Correct. I mean, this one is completely fine outdoors. And a matter of fact, mine's going to sit under the soffit at the front door of my office, because it's perfect for a front door under a soffit where it's going to get some. I mean, you could barrage it. I mean, it really is well built. It's as well built as their pros have always been. But I probably, if I'm going to go out in the side of a building, I'm probably going to put the turret anyways.
And one thing you had mentioned earlier, these two new cameras, they look like other cameras now. So
Correct.
the Bullet cameras are quite unique looking. There's no other cameras that quite look like those. Whereas the cameras you see out and about in public, they look like these now. So if you upgrade something or change them out, they're not going to look different, if that bothers people in some regard. I don't know if it does, but yeah.
Yeah. I would expect at some point too, and I have no insider knowledge on this either, that they'll redo the Bullet line. Because right now, when I did my review last year, that the AI Bullet was way down my list. I think that their Bullets, the Pro is really nice, but I think the Bullet line right now could use a refresh, maybe an Ultra Bullet or something like that, where you're getting that form factor where you can do that with the articulation.
I don't know if you've noticed, actually, for this podcast, I go through and systematically check the store to see if anything disappeared or appeared. And the AI Bullet is dropped from the store now. That AI Bullet's gone. Yep.
Yeah.
Well, they still have the AI Pro, which is a bit of a style camera.
Yeah. No, the AI Pro that's a whole nother ball game. But the AI Bullet, when I put it out there and did my regular tests on it, it underperformed for the price level that it was. And I never put one in anywhere.
Okay.
The AI Pro is still a great camera, though. It's a really good camera.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, in the test, spoiler alert again, in my test today, it still beat the turret and the dome for outdoor use. The 3x zoom is if you've got a spot where you need the zoom, it really is a killer feature.
Yeah. We're now going to get into the new AI LPR, or license plate recognition. And this is a camera I've wanted Ubiquiti to make for a very, very long time. And I'm glad they've pulled it off. So this isn't going to be available yet. It's going to be available in January 2025, and there isn't any price information yet. I can imagine this being around $900 or something like that.
I would assume so.
Yeah, I don't know what the price point is on the Hikvision ones, because in the UK, whenever you've got any car parks that have got they call it AMPR, they're always Hikvision, because I have a little nosy look sometimes, but so I'd imagine that whatever price they are, that's probably the same sort of thing.
Yeah, it's not going to be inexpensive.
No, but I found it really interesting. So in the little video they've produced, and also the spec sheet, they said it can detect license plates that are either reflective or non-reflective, which is impressive. Because if you ever looked, you would have looked at them before, but they have the weird ghosting effect when you look at plates. Especially the ones in the UK are very reflective. The plates we have, so it does a weird ghosting thing. But up to 55 miles per hour or 90 kilometers an hour, which is That's pretty good. And 2 lanes of traffic it can see. Just very, very impressive, and I'm glad they've done it.
Yeah, my quest to get LPR out front, that's why I have the AI DSLR, and it's able to do it because its frame rate is just higher because it's got the bigger micro four thirds sensor. But it's $2,500 camera versus I would assume this is going to be around $1,000 plus or minus a bit. I have no intel on that either, but it is. Yeah, I think it's going to sell like crazy because everybody asks me all the time. I've been trying to get the Pro to be a good LPR camera, and it's close, but it's just not quite there. If you're right up on something, you can do it pretty well. But as soon as the light goes, it's really the low light frame rate that is the issue, or that, like you're saying, the reflections of the license plates.
Yeah, I watched your AI DSLR video whenever it came out, and it was really, really well done, like most of your videos. It was really interesting to see because no one had done a video on it.
It's just so expensive.
Yeah, and it was good that you did one. It was really thorough review, so it was really good.
That's why that brings up another thing, and I've said this over the years, and I don't know what their logic is behind it, but as products age in tech, it would be nice if and that product's 2 or 3 years old at this point, and it's an incredible product, and I think the price of it was somewhat fair. Because a micro four thirds Pro lens that's in there is $1,400 in just for the glass.
Oh, wow.
On that. And so you got $1,000 camera and a $1,400 lens, so that makes sense. But one thing they just never do is lower the price as things get old, right? Like, so we mentioned the AI Bullet, which I wasn't a big fan of, but if you lowered that price by $100 as it's moonlighting, because you have to think their manufacturing cost is, amortized over what they've sold after 4 or 5 years, or 3 or 4 years, or whatever that is. But you never see that those prices drop as products age.
Well, Apple never do the same. Apple don't do the same thing.
Yeah, you're right.
Beat me to it.
Yeah,
I was gonna say that's Robert Perez Apple Roots. That show there. And I was going to say with this, I mean, it seems optically really similar to the AI Pro. Like it has the same sensor as far as I can tell, the 3x optical zoom, and that's a $499 camera. So, I mean, you guys think it's going to be maybe double the price just for this license plate recognition? I mean, and there are a few other things, the SD card.
SD card, and it's got whatever the IR cut filter or whatever they're doing in there to the fancy magic. I'm assuming there's going to be premium there. I could be totally wrong. I have no intel there either, but I think that probably $1,000 plus or minus some $800. I don't know. Maybe $799. I don't know.
Well, and speaking of premium, in my mind, like a use case for this would be a gate, license plate recognition on an access gate, maybe, or for you, like in your business, looking towards the parking lot.
Right.
I'm trying so hard and struggling to imagine a car driving by at 50 miles per hour. I need to recognize their license plate, or like where that would be useful besides like a highway or something. Like
the internet's a crazy place, but I get that question all the time, and I get people that show me pictures of what they're trying to do, and it's it's basically on a light pole next to a highway, and they're like, when I say a highway, I mean a 4-lane road, and they want to get everybody coming at them. I don't know. I mean, think about if you're a gas station or a business that wants to see people coming and going, it may be worth it. Well, Alex, where are you seeing them? All the hike visions in Europe?
Car parks mainly. So you have car parks that are, you drive in, and there's a chain of car parks here that you log in with an account, and they own a bunch of car parks. And as you drive in, you get it logs on your account when you entered, and it logs on your way out. But also in not so nice situations, you park somewhere where you shouldn't have been, and you get a nice letter through the post to say, "Look, we saw you here." I may or may not have had that at one point.
It's funny. The more that you loiter on Reddit and Facebook, the more you realize there are use cases you just never, in your day-to-day, musings, never see.
There is also
that makes sense.
Yeah. On the spec sheet for this camera, it says image settings. You've got the usual color, brightness, and stuff. There's a few things in here. It says 2DNR, 3D NR and NR by motion. I've got no idea what those things mean, but I think those are exclusive to this camera. I've not seen them before.
Yeah, it's going to be noise reduction of some sort
Yeah.
there. It's going to have some, what they typically do is they have some sort of cut filter in them that's reducing whatever. It would be like putting a polarizing filter on a camera or
Yep.
it's just going to be an optical,
Yeah.
whatever it is that they use to be able to not get this reflections off the license plate.
And yeah, Alex, I think that spec was just added to the store because I've noticed that on other cameras too.
Oh, okay.
It's
really?
not just the LPR, but yeah, I
Okay.
think what they did is they finally started, because different cameras have different options, so they
Yep.
started saying, okay, you can adjust contrast here, you can adjust 3D noise reduction, all of
Nice.
those settings.
It's also got a quad-core CPU, which is, I don't know how standard that is across the range, but it also, what stood out to me is the amount of power it can actually draw. 25.5 watts of power for a camera. That's insane.
If you start talking those numbers, I'm going to Evan's site.
Speaking of, yeah, that's what I have on my other screen is I'm working on Protect updates.
Nice.
Yeah.
And yeah, that is a lot of power. And that CPU, it seems like it's standard for all the AI cameras.
Okay.
That quad core A53 ARM. That's what all the AI cameras have.
Okay.
And they are all doing the AI on themselves. So
Yep.
that's the way UniFi is doing it. And that's probably, and I have no intel on this, but why the port and the key thing that you mentioned earlier,
Mhm.
they need them in line because if they're not doing it on the Protect hardware, they're not doing it on the NVR, they're doing it on the camera. So
Yep.
they can't just magically do it on the NVR. I know they probably could if they rewrote the program, but the way Protect is, getting that data, it's getting that data with all that information from the camera.
Yeah.
Right. And it's probably more scalable that way, I would assume. That's like another thing I noticed was I was updating these, all of the camera limits on all of the hardware. I think this was tied into 5.0 with the more efficient encoding and the changes they made under the hood in 5.0. But every single camera limit is increased. Even for like the UDR went from 4 to 5 HD cameras, I think.
Yep.
So I think that's the other reason is if you offload that compute onto the camera, that way you can kind of have more cameras per NVR.
Yes, good idea. We also, we had UniFi Network 8.6.9. It was release candidate a few days ago, but it also got released to GA a few days ago as well. And this is quite a chunky release, really, in terms of things that are new. I can't remember. Did we talk about the beta version on the last episode? I can't remember.
We did.
Okay.
So there was 8.6.3 and 8.6.5. Those
Yep.
are the EA releases we talked about last time. .9 doesn't add too much, but the big things are in all of these releases now that it's GA.
Yep.
Increases the VLAN limit to 500 on the top of the line gateways, the Enterprise Fortress Gateway and the UXG Enterprise. They renamed and moved things like they tend to do. They have a new enhanced IoT connectivity option, which is, from my understanding, it just makes it a 2.4 gigahertz only network with, mandates a few settings to make IoT connectivity better. They renamed AP Analyzer to Radio Manager and RF Scanning to Airtime Scan. Added packet captures, improved the dashboard, and a bunch of other minor fixes there.
Yeah, I noticed with the IoT thing, it disables BSS transition, which would make sense, and some rate limit things, I think. I did have a quick peruse through it, so yeah.
Well, yeah, Clay, have you said like maybe you are dabbling? Do you have any UniFi gateways, or have you used UniFi Network for routing?
Yeah, I run an EFG at home, and I've got a cloud gateway. I've got all the things. I do all the things.
How's the EFG, especially at home? I mean, is that for testing out, or is there a need for that?
No need at home. It's funny, and I can't I can't mention what I replaced it with, but I replaced it with a very low end machine, and honestly, there's very little. Back to my talk earlier, you're getting almost the same experience with a $130 router that you do with the high end router. The only thing on the high end router is you've got a couple things, like you've got the AI deep packet inspection and stuff that isn't on the other routers. But it was funny. I, as you put a new router on of whatever type, it asks you to restore from backup. And I restored back up to what I'm assuming is going to be a $150 router from my EFG, and it did it. I was like, oh, let me just do this for fun. Let me just see if it did it, and it excluded the things that weren't available, and it took all the things that were available, and it handled it gracefully. And I was like, wow, that was really cool. But no, the EFG is it's total overkill, and it's crazy. And but I am eventually going to. I'm waiting for one or two more little shoes to drop, and I'm probably going to run that in here in my office. I might be the first beta tester of doing that here. If I don't run it here, the real, and same thing with the campus switches. I've got the campus switches, and we're testing those, the ag switch. They're really data center stuff. I mean, they're stuff for, you need to have a campus really to even put a dent in what those are capable of doing. But it's fun to play with.
Oh yeah.
And if they send them to me to test, I'll test them at my house.
Hey, if they want to send some stuff to us, we'll test them. Hey, yeah. I don't need an EFG at home, but I sure want one. Why not?
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, along with network 8.6.9 going GA, we also got UniFi OS 4.1.9 for basically every device type, including the NAS. Just got it, I think, today. Nice. This is, I think we talked about it at least once, maybe twice already, but this kind of unlocks a lot of the features that we've talked about in UniFi Network. So that adds directory integration, custom certificates for the web GUI, not yet for the guest portal. That is coming soon. It adds BGP, NetFlow, packet captures, and a bunch of other, kind of enterprisey features, along with a lot of other miscellaneous improvements. So that's finally out, and now we'll eagerly await 4.2 and whatever that brings.
I do have to say, and I became part of the program because I did a video that was really popular complaining about UniFi, and that probably put me on their radar. Not to tell anybody to do a nasty video about UniFi, but I brought up some good points, and they were very gracious and reached out to me and said, hey, let's talk about it. But the amount of development they've been doing lately over the last couple of years, I made that video a couple of years ago, and the progress they've made in the last couple of years has just been really impressive to me.
We're aware. We titled our last episode "Officially Overwhelmed."
Yeah.
Because this was definitely a slower software month, but overall for this year, agreed. The amount of new products and especially the software, I think, is probably the most impressive thing. UniFi Network, all their other applications too. Protect had 5.0, but UniFi Network has been pushed so far this year, and they really have delivered on the enterprisey sales pitch that they had earlier on.
Yeah, it's funny when I got the ENVR, I took my UNVR, which I had UNVR, then the UNVR Pro, and then I got the ENVR. I took my ENVR, the UNVR that I had orphaned when I did when I got the UNVR Pro, and I was like, oh, I'll send it to Orlando. And so I took it from 2 to 5, and I'm like, this is the same device. And if you look at it at 2.0 Protect to 5.0 Protect, the amount of quality, real world changes that you've got as somebody that bought this for whatever it was back then, $499, it's just unbelievable, the amount of stuff there. And, I will say this too, as being in the creator program, you see they're not willy-nilly about this. Like that UNAS, everybody wanted the UNAS out, and they wanted it out 12 months ago, and there was leaks and leaks and leaks. One of the reasons they were very slow to that is they knew it's people's data, and they're very intentional about shipping it right. And you'll see across the board, there's really not a negative review of that UNAS from anybody that got it, because what they said it was going to do, it does. It's just a fast little, SMB storage device. It's got some neat features on it. Is it ever going to be a 45 drives, storinator? No. But is it going to be a great little spot to store your stuff? and they were very intentional about making that right. And that's why it took so long for that to come out. It wasn't, manufacturing or whatever. They were just, I mean, maybe it was. I don't have any insight to that, but they wanted it to be right, and they've been doing that lately. Where there hasn't been a lot of. In the past, people would complain about they're going in too many directions, and this is garbage and that's garbage, and I really like this, but why are you doing it? They've been really intentional. Everything they put out really over the last couple of years has been at least well thought out, right?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and reputations take a long time to repair and change. I still see discussions all the time, especially because I'm in a lot of like networking forums. And every time the topic gets brought up, like, would you use Ubiquiti or UniFi in your business or in your enterprise? And everyone says no. Time will tell if that eventually becomes a reality. But agreed. They are making the case and doing the work and working their way there for sure.
Yeah, you can see it like when people were like Tom Lawrence starts to go, we're getting close. He's very skeptical. He's really gonna kick the tires, and he's dyed in the wool PF Sense guy. When you start to see him go, this is getting close. They've spent time, money, and energy to get, and that's the whole MSP space. We're very slow to move because if we roll something out and it doesn't work, if you put a UNAS in a client's office and they lose data, you just can't do it. So you don't do it. And I think UniFi is starting to get in a spot there where you're going to start to see them in that enterprise space. I'd be surprised if they failed at what they're trying to do.
Yeah. Just touching on the UNAS, I'm eagerly awaiting for it to come back in stock because I'm desperate for a storage solution for my videos because I'm running low on space.
It's awesome for, I have an HL15, which, is just a monster. And I left mine in the office or in my house next to that. And for what I do, 99.99% of the time, it works fine. And I would have been smarter to buy the $499 UNAS and buy a little cheap server to do all the compute on separately and just do shares. And I would do all the same things that I'm doing on my HL15, which was, by the time I had it all spec'd out and doing what I wanted with it, was probably $2,500 chassis. Yeah. So, yeah.
Awesome.
Well, speaking of UniFi Drive, that got a couple bug fixes, but UniFi Protect got a pretty decently sized update. We already mentioned it added NFC and fingerprint support for the G4 Doorbell Pro. It adds thumbnails to Alarm Manager push notifications, which I know a lot of people have complained about. But it also adds two new camel cased features that they like to do: Case Manager and Sensor Manager. Clay, have you been using this? What are those two things?
Sensor Manager is not as good as the Case Manager. The Sensor Manager probably has a little bit more work to do. I've got a sensor. Cody did Mac Telecom did a review of it yesterday, and he went through his sensors. I think he has 4 or 5 sensors. It just does a graph of them over time. It's got some ways to go, but Case Manager is legit for me a great feature. Every once in a while, I'll have a client or hear, somebody will do something in the office next door and the cops will come and say, hey, do you have video of that? And Case Manager lets you just really quickly create a case. You name the case whatever you want to name the case. You go into your footage, you just add the footage with the little icon to the case, and then you put notes next to the case or each piece of footage, and then you save the case and it will export into a zip with the recordings and a PDF with all your descriptions. So it's all in a zip that you could just send to the police or to security or to a client or whatever you needed to do to do it. So people that are reporting back to somebody on things, I mean, it doesn't necessarily need to be nefarious or whatever, but if you're using these cameras in an engineer's office and you want to say, hey, this piece of equipment moved here to there, and you just do that on a regular basis, this Case Manager is perfect for anybody that uses the footage and reports the footage to somebody else.
Very cool.
Yeah, I've been playing with the software as well the past few days. It's really cool. The one thing I really like is that sometimes UniFi Protect detects my cat as a person, so I can now go in and do the false detections now. So
yeah.
Also,
go ahead,
loitering. Loitering is another one that you hear from time to time. That's one of those things, and you can just see if somebody stands around for too long, it'll tell you.
Yeah. No, it's a really nice update. There's lots of little things I've noticed, like there's typography improvements, there's like description improvements, there's like tiny little bits being tidied up that I can't quite describe, but you noticed it because I use Protect every day. But yeah, it's a nice update, and they're doing a really good job. So
Pause on your space bar. Tiny, but one of those ones you're like, yes. Now, my biggest one that I want them to do, and I've been asking for it forever, and they won't do it. And if you have any of the cameras that do the PTZs, is the auto tracking. It's impossible to tell whether that button is depressed or not depressed. So it's dark gray either way. And so you have to kind of go, is it on auto tracking? And then you see somebody walk through the parking lot and they don't get auto tracked, and you go in there and you click it on again. But as soon as you click something else, if you want to control the PTZ manually, you have to go back in and turn on auto tracking again. And you get all those buttons across the top. I would like the on-off designation to be a little bit more clear.
On is the other shade of light gray.
That's correct.
Yes.
That's correct.
Yeah, I haven't played with the new G5 PTZ yet. I'm meaning to order one and have a play around with it because it looks really cool. But yeah,
A perfect example for the AI port, the G4 Industrial. $200 more. I get optically that camera is so amazing.
Yeah.
Now I get smart detections on it. That's a no-brainer.
Yeah. That's a good thought. I didn't even think of that. Nice. There's also in early access, there's UniFi Access Point 7084, and this adds further things to improve IoT connectivity. It says,
I mainly put this in here because I don't know if any one of you have the U7 APs, but I've heard nothing but complaints about the U7s, specifically with 2.4 gigahertz and IoT. I think this is like the fourth or fifth beta in a row where they're like, we did it again, we improved it again. So maybe this is the one. But what did they say in the show notes or the release notes there, Alex?
It says additional improvements for the 2.4 gig connectivity is in bold. Please try with enhanced IoT connectivity disabled. This build contains significant enhancements that apply without enhanced IoT connectivity enabled. Okay. Yeah, I've got a U6 Pro for the house, but I haven't even played with the U7 stuff yet. I don't think. Oh, I've got a U7 Pro, whatever the one that had the QR code to add. I think that was the U7 Pro Max, maybe. I can't quite remember, but yeah, I haven't really used it that much. But yeah, no, it's interesting. I guess the CPU set or the chips they're using is very different to the other ones. So I guess they're having some weird issues getting everything to work nicely. So
I haven't had any issues. I run a U7 Wall and a U7 Pro Max Plus HD LMNOP.
Ultra.
And I haven't had any trouble with either of them. U7 Pro Max.
Yeah, I have a U7 Pro. It's working fine as well. But I know I've seen that discussion several times. So keeping an eye on those firmwares. It seems like they're still working on it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And another software stack that has had a lot of fast improvements is UniFi Talk. And we've got another relatively sized update. This one adds, I guess, pre-configured settings for a certain SIP provider in Brazil. So they seem to be doing this in other countries like Germany and stuff. They're adding preset details so people don't have to go and research things. But I am impressed with UniFi Talk. It's really good in terms of their development pace on it. Looks like they're going in the right direction.
Yeah, I think that's welcome. I've never done anything with UniFi Talk. We do a lot of VoIP stuff, and we're too far down different paths. But I know people were concerned, 12 months ago, was it getting, the attention that it needed. So it's great to hear that they are putting some effort into it.
Yeah, and last month we discussed it now works with third-party SIP devices. So you can add something like a Grandstream phone or an ATA of one of those devices and just get it all working, which really, really is a good idea. I'm glad they've done that now.
And yeah, the last two are very minor. In the long, sad saga of the UISP router and console, 5.1 finally went GA. So OSPF and BGP improvements, lots of web GUI enhancements, finally GA after I can't even tell you how many months that's been kicking around. But do love seeing the very slow progress on the UISP side. The only other software thing I wanted to point out was the Security Bulletin 44. That affects its improper certificate validation in the UniFi OS app when managing standalone APs. A malicious actor could, potentially control that access point. So it's a pretty narrow attack vector. I mean, it does have a CVSS score of 7.1, but it's a pretty minor thing. But it is fixed in 10.18 of the iOS app. So update if you are doing any standalone access points, I guess.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I'm on the test flight thing for the UniFi Protect and UniFi app itself, and the pace on that app alone in the beta section is incredible. And I run the beta versions all the time, and they seem very good and very stable. So yeah. We got a little bit of one or two items that Ubiquiti drip fed. We got a new white option for the AI 360, along with some supplemental white accessories for it, which it's a nice thing to see. It's good.
I'll echo Cody's comments on that. That's really just kind of a white strip around a big black dome.
Yes.
But it's an option.
It is.
But if you add the white accessories, which they seem to have 50 different camera mounting options and camera accessories, they added some more? Is that what happened here? Yeah,
so along with the AI turret and AI dome, there were some new accessories. There's one called the dual camera. I've fudged the name, but it looks like it sticks out from a building, and you can get to, I guess, an alleyway or a I don't know, a pathway or something. You can get a nice view on both those cameras. That's quite cool. And there was, as Clay mentioned earlier, the sunshade for the AI dome as well. There's a few various
and a flush mount for the AI dome. I have them all in hand. I have them all in hand too, and they're typical, nicely done. Everybody's going to complain about the price of them, but they're nuts. They're nuts. They're worth the price.
Well, and the junction boxes, are those new? I don't remember seeing those before.
They've been around, and people complain about that too, but turrets traditionally need junction boxes. Everybody's like, oh, I need a turret because I need a junction box for the mini turret or the turret ultra.
All right.
Because the pigtail comes out the back of it.
Yes.
And well, that's
if that is a standard thing for other cameras, then I don't see what the problem is.
What they did on the Pro, the AI Dome and Turret Pro, is they both have egress out of the side, and both of them did it with a really nice grommet. So you could flush mount it against the wall and just have the cable dangle down the wall, which for most installers aren't going to do that anyways. You'd want a junction box if it's coming down the side of a wall. You want something to put conduit against. But if you did want to do it, you certainly could do it. Now, my test rig, it was very convenient because I'm not doing final mounting on it, and so the wire just comes out of the side.
Yeah, I noticed this with Ubiquiti and Apple stuff, is that there are certain things in other industries that no one has any idea of, except those professionals that do it. And as soon as these companies bring weird stuff, quote unquote, to the mass market, everyone's like, "What the hell is this?" Like, so yeah.
They've also done a nice job on both of them. They have a little lanyard. The dome, it's built into the dome itself. So if you all of these, you can kind of take the middle part out. And if you're, over your head and you accidentally fumbled it and it fell towards you, there's a lanyard on it. And the turret has a little locking mechanism for the pigtail itself will be the lanyard to stop it from falling on your head.
Nice. And the very last little piece of hardware we've got is the Toolless mini rack shelf, and this is for the 6U rack thing they've got. And now you get a nice shelf for your various things, and it's sold out. So
you need shelves. Shelves are good.
If I'm being really mean, it's a $49 bent piece of metal, but it does look very nice.
Yeah.
Well, to be fair, it's $29 for a black metal piece of bent metal on Amazon for a regular rack shelf. So $20 for it to be pretty and UniFi and sit near whatever silver.
Yeah, and they show it with the power ramp, but I can imagine the AI key or AI port or the key. anything like that.
That
If
was
you
one
need a
other
shelf.
thing. There's another thing they teased on the AI port. If you had multiple of them, they
Mm.
make a little rack mount cradle that will then put multiple ones in there, and I'm assuming manage the cables a little bit for you or something
Yeah.
along those lines. So it looks a little bit prettier.
Yeah, it reminded me of a fiber splice tray thing. So
Yeah.
yeah. And then Evan, you pointed out that we haven't seen any of the new UISP stuff yet. I forgot about this completely. I'll be honest.
Yeah, I'm not crazy like you, where I'm there every day refreshing the
It's
store
not
page.
every day.
But yeah, I still definitely, I'm keen to get those in the store and get the rest of the details, because I
Yeah.
think all we've seen of the Wave Gen 2 and the new AP Gen 2, Wave AP Gen 2, all of the new 6 gigahertz outdoor equipment is that little teaser video. So I'm patiently waiting for that to show up.
Yeah, it would be interesting to see what the further specs on that is. Clay, do you do much stuff with the Air Max and UISP stuff, Clay? Because both me and Evan we've got backgrounds in WISP, so we've sort of done our time in
A
this stuff.
little bit. Honestly, to tell you the truth, that new UDB takes it, puts it out. What I would do, puts it over into my world, and
Yes.
those were super easy and comfy. And I ran across the lake here, which is as far as I could go with line of sight, and that thing was hitting my AP in the middle. I couldn't even test the bridge mode of those things because one to an AP in the middle of my building was so strong.
Wow.
I may at some point, this is on my someday maybe list of YouTube videos. I live on the 10th floor. I may go as far as I can go down the road and see how far I can make a UDB Pro, hit another UDB Pro. But no, I mean for my use case scenario, that's probably all that I would do. We've had clients over the years that have had buildings connected to one another, but it was through a third party. It wasn't us doing that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, yeah,
I think
those device bridges are perfect for people like you. I think we had a question last time. Like, for us, it's like, I want all the knobs and switches and to be able to configure everything on the radio.
Yeah.
And for you, you just say, I want something plug and play. So those devices are really nice for that.
What's really crazy about it too is our building is surrounded by big office buildings, and there's more wireless across that lake than you could shake a stick. And it didn't. I thought I was going to go over there and I wasn't going to get anything, and I got over there and it was no different than being in the front yard. So, the front garden.
Yeah. If it's anything like the NanoBeam device, which it looks like, those can do serious distance for the smallness of the device they are. So yeah, it's very impressive. Awesome. That's pretty much all we've got for new software and hardware. Before we all disappear, is there anything that we've been working on? So Clay, have you got anything video-wise, like project-wise, that you want to tell the good audience about that they'd find interesting?
Yeah, things that I can talk about. I've got the AI bullet and the AI turret, or the AI dome and the AI turret. Working on those.
Awesome.
I've got some home lab stuff that I'm doing. I got some non-UniFi stuff. Most of the UniFi stuff that I have right now, I can't talk about. No, there's good stuff, but I can't talk about it.
Fair enough. I know you saw on Twitter as well. You wanted to talk about it on the show. It's not related to Ubiquiti.
Oh yeah.
I've been very, very busy with car reviews the past few weeks. I made myself very tired last week. So we've been driving all around the place, testing out new cars, because part of the interface I review cars as well. And one of those was the new Porsche Macan electric, which I was very, very lucky to test, because all the big reviewers tested it only 2 weeks ago. I never usually get them that early. So yeah, that was really, really cool to drive. So
First of all, I lied my last time. The last question. Yesterday had a charging station and charging station Pro put out, so I'll be doing a charging station video
oh, cool.
on both of those.
Again, because no one's tested them yet. There's no videos out there, so you're gonna be the only one.
Yeah.
Again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a bunch of my guys have electric vehicles here, so it was a kind of a double whammy.
Nice.
Although in the States, the way I pay for electricity at a business, probably the most sound financial decision to do it, but we'll see. Make the employees happy, and we'll have a couple charging stations. But yeah, no, I am a big fan. I'm a car guy, and so
Yep.
that was a great review. I actually drive an SQ5, which is basically the Audi version of the
Yes.
Macan. Just cheaped out on it. I would love to have a Macan, and I'm not quite to the. I'm very interested in it. I'm almost gonna dip my toes in electric, and every time the problem I see is depreciation on them. And you look at what the Taycan market did.
Yep.
If you do a premium turbo like you had there, price there day one, if it goes in half, it's a big chunk
Yep.
of money.
100%. And
Really
if
cool car.
anyone listening or watching to this doesn't know, one of the other podcasts that we have on the interface is called Charging Status, where me and my friend from the UK we talk about EVs. So we talk about cars we've been driving and things we've been doing in bits and pieces. So if there is some overlap, as it seems, between Ubiquiti and cars, then there's that podcast there. There's a link in the description to that one. But yeah, with that one, I got everything filmed within 6 or 7 hours. It was very fast paced.
Every
To
time
get
I
done.
see somebody do it, I'm the YouTuber going, all right, they stopped and they put the camera down there. They went back and
Yep.
they drove the car past it. Then they stopped and they went, and what took 10 seconds to film of final edit, I know took 30 minutes of
Yep.
effort.
Yeah. It's crazy. And to get back on the Ubiquiti subject, I seem to be the only person doing SolarPoint content at the moment. I did another SolarPoint video on the Hostify channel. I think recall last episode, I said I broke my SolarPoint because I plugged in a 48-volt adapter. And yeah, what the problem is that I plugged the adapter in with passive and the thing died. So I made a whole half an hour video talking about me replacing it and different things. And I got the usual comments of, one was saying this video is really helpful, and one guy said, you don't know what you're doing, you should fix the software. So yeah, that was nice. So, but I basically wanted to get 48 volts out of the SolarPoint with PoE to put a G5 bullet on it, because it is 24 volt only. So that video goes over my ups and downs of how I did that. So yeah.
I think
Nice.
it's like a badge of honor to fry some equipment
Oh
with
yeah.
passive PoE.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
You're
I've
not
done it.
trying.
Like I know that commenter was probably hopefully not super serious, but like it happens.
Yeah, no. And then Evan, what have you been doing in the last month?
Deep in the spreadsheets.
Nice.
Like I've mentioned, I have updated Protect comparison charts. I'm almost done with. All of my UniFi Network ones are almost done as well. And mainly I've been playing around with some other vendors. So I know we didn't talk about it this month, but maybe next month we'll talk a bit about that.
Yeah, we're gonna
Interesting.
do bits and pieces outside of Ubiquiti now and again. Even though this podcast is called UI Chat, we have sort of
I was gonna
pigeonholed ourselves a little bit there. But
despite what we just said over the past hour, other network vendors do exist.
yes, they do.
Yes.
And that's all we've got time for. Thank you so much for listening or watching the UI Chat podcast. If you like what we do, follow the show on all the podcast platforms and on YouTube. Give us a rating. That really helps other people find this show. Clay, where can people find your amazing content online?
Yeah, I'm DPC Technology on YouTube, or you can go to www.dpctechnology.com.
Fantastic. And then Evan, where can they find your incredible content as well?
EvanMcCann.net.
Fantastic. You can find this podcast on YouTube and all the audio places, and the website for the interface is theinterface.uk. There's all sorts of news about Ubiquiti and vehicles and things. So fantastic. Once again, thank you for watching, and we'll see you again next time.
See ya.
See ya.